Good morning, dear professors, dear chairman, and members of the state postgraduate students. Let me start today's master's dissertation defense. It was assigned according to the order. The chairman of State Attestation Commission, Doctor of Philosophy on Philological Science, Bibisanyam Aynazarovna Arzieva, Associate Professor of Department of English Language and Literature of Nuku State Pedagogical Institute. The Deputy of State Attestation Commission, Doctor of Philosophy on Mathematical Science, Alanbergen Limpas Hasimbaeva, Head of the Master's Department of Karkalpak State University. Members of State Attestation Commission, Candidate of Pedagogical Science, Associate Professor Jovan Amibavich Kurbambar, Dean of the Faculty of Foreign Language of Karkalpak State University. Doctor of Philosophy on Philological Science, Gauhar Batyrna Joldasova, Head of the Department of English Linguistics of Karkalpak State University. Candidate of Philological Science, Vinci Murat Muratov, Associate Professor of English Linguistics Department of Karkalpak State University. Candidate of Philological Science, Dilbar Tajimuratov Hajieva, Associate Professor of English Linguistics Department of Karkalpak State University. Gudira Khulambаевна Khadarbaeva, Associate Professor of Distance Learning, Department of Nuku State Pedagogical Institute. Gulmira Adilbaevna Usianova, Associate Professor of Distance Learning, Department of Nuku State Pedagogical Institute. Utirativa Gozal Urmenchpaevna, Assistant Coordinator of Organization of Doctors Without Borders. Doctor of Philosophy on Philological Science, Fudakunatbaevna Jmambetova, Assistant of English Linguistics, Department of Karkalpak State University. And now it's time to announce undergraduate students. And the first one is Pusino Difuza Kolbaevna, with scientific work, historical analysis of translation schools in Europe in Middle Ages, grammatical categories of the English noun and the expressing in the sentence. Scientific advisor, Sholobekova Mayesh, candidate of philological science.
Good morning, members. Good morning, students. I will introduce myself. My full name is Pusino Difuza Kolbaevna, and our theme is historical analysis of translation schools in medieval ages. The actuality of our master studies is seen that the history of translation still remains uninvestigated thoroughly. The history of translation schools requires further centuries. History in Europe and the history of translation schools in Europe in medieval ages, and to analyze. First task is to investigate the ancient European translation, to investigate translation of history in medieval ages in Europe. The third one is to reveal materials about the history of translating schools in Europe and medieval ages. To analyze the work of famous translators from medieval ages has been investigated using diachronical aspects, and some new cultural tendencies have been revealed in the process of investigation. Our work is structure consists of introduction, 3 chapters, which are in the subdivided into paragraphs, conclusion, and the list of the literature. The first chapter is about the translation and its role in development and ancient European translation schools. The second half of the 20th century has seen in-depth studies of translation, are in their subdivided which is sometimes called theory of translation or science of translation, translation linguistics, or even Christology. It has been claimed abroad that translation studies begin in 1972 with Holmes' paper, presented at Third International Congress of Applied Linguistics, the name of and the nature of translation structure. There are several aspects of this branch of linguistics. The first branch is theory, general theory of translation, whose object is general notions typical of translation from any language. The second one is specific theory of translation that deals with the regularities of translation characteristics of particle language. And the third one is special theory of translation that pays attention to the text of various registers and genres. The latter corresponding to the Russian word перевод, translation and interpretation. Translation is a written text, and the term interpretation, oral speech. However, the term arithmetic and interpret might to render or discuss the meaning of the text. Difference in writing translation and interpretation has been fixed to international professional association. To the Written Translators Association, called International Federation of Translators, and the Oral Translation, the International Association of Conference Interpreters. The first interpreter is consecutive interpreting, and deliver translation after listening to the speaker so that there was some between source language and the translation. These interpreters work in teams of two, and each into his mother tongue. The sentence-by-sentence interpreting, often found in liaison and community interpreting, is not measured while community interpreting, typically the public service languages. Simultaneous interpreting of almost immediately speaker produces the text. It gives 2 or 3 seconds. Simulation of interpreting gained from United Nations Organization. It began at the era of multilateral diplomacy. Today, simulation interpreters, like their predecessors, are provided with special equipment, like they work in a special booth. When they are listening, they headset and the speaker listen the word, and when they want to speak, the interpreting is a microphone. And they're watching what is going in the meeting room. Simulation translation is usually employed at multi-language meetings, so that conference participants can switch their headphones and appropriate language channel. And there are widespread interpreting, where the interpreter sits between the participants and whisper his or her translation to them. This type of translation is used in business meetings. Written translation. Written translation, there are some varieties: visual, by ear, and a sight translation. Visual translation, written text is therefore translator eyes. By ear, in the case of translators, listen to the text and the writers the translation. Dictation translation. And the sight translation is translation of the written text without a preliminary reading, usually done or written translation and interpreting. And translators have time to polish their work, while interpreters have no time to refine their output. Any supplementary knowledge, for example, terminology or interpreting. Translators can reread their text. They don't have memorized big segments, while interpreters are able to listen to the text but once. Interpreters have to make decisions much faster than translators. And John Biden identified 3 types of translations. The first is metaphrase, involving word-by-word translation or line-by-line translation. The second one is from words, and in ancient European translation schools, the first school is Plato Academy School, and Plato founded the academy in Athens in about 387 BC. The academy was an institution devoted to research and instruction in philosophy and science, and Plato presided over it from 387 until his death, 347. Many intellectuals were schooled there, and the most prominent being Aristotle in 529, making the longest surviving university now. The second school is Chang'an School. Plato's academy had an impact on the development of translation in China, which resulted in the appearance of Chang'an School. In a written documents from the late Zhao dynasty, Jia Zhonyang, an imperial scholar, wrote, translation is to place one written language with another, without changing the meaning from motto in Southern China. In 379, Doan was educated to Chang'an via the standard Chang'an school. It was at this time that monks from Kashmir, China's large numbers of books were translated in Chinese language. And the third one is the Great Library of Alexandria. Alexander the Great dreamed that unifying the world sparked the idea of constructing a great library which would gather the cultures and the civilizations of the whole world. And at this point, he created the Great Library of Alexandria. It was the first recorded attempt at making collection of all the world record knowledge. In addition to this, accusers of the bulk of Greek literature, a lot of knowledge, ancient Egypt, there is evidence of Great Library, and there are about 700 books in this library. The second chapter is the translation development in Europe in 9th to 13th century. The first representative of this period is Irina. From 9th century, they started appearing literature, Spanish and written literature, and began from translations. One of the representatives is Eriguena, who lived in the reign of Karl. The second one is Michael Scott, worker and translator out of Scotland. He traveled a lot, and even the Pope of Rome was impressed by his erudition and the perfect knowledge of the language. He also tried his hands and translated Aristotle's work, and he also worked in a Toledo school. He translates Avicenna's book about animals. This next is Alfred, the King Alfred. In 10th century, monasteries developed the translation activity. The translation activity of Notker was the biggest one. The evidence shows that he worked and translated Aristotle's work. Then the last is Abelard, one of the prominent translators of 12th century. Also known as Abelard or Abelard has been called the first English scientist. His translation work of mathematics and astronomy from the Arabic alphabet introduced Hindu, Arabic, and the use of zero. His book of natural philosophy, how reason and innovation could be used to explain natural phenomena. Translation development in 14th and 18th century. The first representative is George Chaucer. He works influenced in the tone of life, and he created activities started from translation. He is known book writer contemporary tales. He is a writer, official, and a bureaucrat, and outstanding English poet. Chaucer made a curious contribution to English literature and English at the time when he much court poetry was still written in Anglo, Norman, or Latin. We can divide into three periods Chaucer's work. The first period is army, when he was in French army, and he translates books in there. The second period is Italian period, because in this day he translated Italian books like The House of Fame and The Parliament of Foes. The third period is which achieved the fullest artistic power belongs his masterpiece. And in this period, he wrote a contemporary tale which consists of unfinished poem and 700 lines of this time. He got his education in Oxford, and all his school activity was connected with this university. The other representative is William Paxton. William Paxton was born in Wales, and he died in Westminster. The next representative is Philemon Holland, was a translator of another king. His legendary pen was apt for any enterprise. The next is George Chapman, English dramatic translator and poet. He was a classical scholar, and his work shows the influence of Scotism. The next is Alexander Pope. English poet, satirist, critic, and a translator, translated Indian and Odyssey. Toledo schools in Spain. The first interpreter was Santa Guy's Exilios. Translation in this area was a means of cultural and political contact between the different. The school of Toledo, where translations were made from Arabic to Latin, and later to Spanish, and helped scientific technological development for the European Renaissance. Toledo took place of Baghdad as a new great translation center of the world. Under the leadership of French Archbishop Raymond, who received from 1126 until his death, 1152. Toledo School, the School of Toledo, represented the intellectual doors through which his incredible storehouse of knowledge would become the West. The next school is Palermo, School of Translation. One of the primary translation schools was Palermo Translation School. It was also founded in Palermo, silently in 13th century and similar to the School of Toledo. Two schools established close relations and exchanged books. Translations and the sciences. Some of the most translators of Palermo School were Eugenus of Palermo and Diana Piastrano. As in Toledo, the translation for Palermo was mainly connected with works in mathematics, philosophy, and digital science. As a result of the scientific activity are the sound of Arabic manuscripts still held today in the Vatican Library in Europe. Palermo was a capital of royal base for Muslims, Normans, and the Germans. According to Al-Idrisi, there was an old Islamic section in the center of Palermo called Al-Khalsa. A school of translation was founded in Palermo in the 13th century, and similar to the School of Toledo in Spain. The two schools established close relations and exchanged book translations and the scientists. The Scottish scientist Michael Scott, one of the students of Toledo schools, who translated the work of Aristotle and even Rushd's commentaries, visited the Palermo school. It is likely that he met Frederick II during whose region Palermo school flourished. But the story of was also translated at the orders of the Spanish King Alfonso. Translation of work at Palermo was mainly concerned as in Toledo, with works in mathematics, philosophy, and the natural science. Some of the most important translation works there were the work of Avicenna, Hunan al-Dib, Al-Shfa in philosophy, and the books of Aziz, such as Al-Khawi al-Tib. In conclusion, our master's thesis is devoted to study the history of translation in Europe through analyzing European translation schools in medieval ages, their activities, and their part in the history of translation science. The period of time is significant for the formation and establishment of local language based on influence of other languages. For example, the history of all the English language started at 14th century and expanded with George Chaucer. Translation is one of the oldest types of activity that arose simultaneously with the development in intercultural relations. But information about the pre-written period, of course, has not been preserved. The history of translation is usually called translation, and its history needs to be investigated more and more. And it has theoretical and practical significance.
I want to know about methods of research. Methods to categorize materials of the paper. Second one, so we have analyzed different schools of translation in medieval ages. Yes. Always background of this age, medieval ages, and the words they use.
For the first question, there are the methods of research like theoretical research, and then specific literature studying, and the dictionary and the manuals.
Dictionary and manuals değil.
Çok kitaplardan alt research. Research.
I'm asking methods of investigation.
Methods of research.
You are talking about object.
Methods of research.
Methods of research. Okay.
Theoretical research.
Theoretical research tamam. Survey method like survey method. Where you have analyze theoretical literature. Diction analyze the analytical analysis.
Resource'lar hocam.
Object of investigation. Theoretical analyze manuals, dictionaries. And the same historical topic.
What is the concretization?
Concretization elements. It's not unclear for us. We don't know such kind of method, concretization. We know classification method and the topic historical analysis. That's why we should use here somehow like historical method. That you have to be in your paper.
Translate the Biblia and the Quran.
Why have chosen this age?
Because in this age, translators developed much more than the ancient age.
Translation was developed.
Like John Chapman, Wycliffe, King Alfred also translate works which connected with the rule of the state.
So you have analyzed different schools of translation. Yes. Which works you think more or most translated brilliantly what fine translation according to your analysis?
The first is, I think, it is a Biblia. It is translated in English. What is English? And the second one is the Quran. It is translated in Palermo school, and it is also
Other schools also translate.
connected with medicine and
Yes, in the history of English, what is by King Alfred?
the books what Wycliffe.
What is the importance of the growing approach of
and our future and what kind of analyze
historic and translation? Yes.
Philosophy on philological science, Associate Professor Kalkar of University of Inglis State Pedagogical Institute. The next undergraduate student is Mohamed Ganieva Malika Timurza. With scientific work, проблема нормативности толкового английского словаря. With scientific advisor, Safar Shahriar, Doctor of Philological Science, Associate Professor, Samarkand State Foreign Language Institute.
Good morning, dear teachers. My name is Muhammad Kani, and my dissertation is about the problem of normativity in explanatory English dictionaries. Normativity is one of the central problems of any national lexicography, or another concept of language and norm. Determines both the scientific component of this dissertation to solve the pressing problems of the history of English lexicography is due to the following factors. In this work, an attempt is made on the material of the most significant dictionaries, 15th, 20th centuries, to show what was the attitude of English lexicographers to the problem of normativity. Thus, it will be clarified whether there existed in English lexicography before Johnson any other tradition in the reflection of this problem. Johnson's dictionary was in form and essence the apogee of the development of prescriptive dictionaries. This is confirmed by the quantitative and qualitative composition of his vocabulary. The emergence of Oxford English Dictionary became possible due to the strengthening of comparative historical linguistics, and together with it, the principle of the objective and impartial registration of linguistic factors. The object of the study of this dissertation is the problem of normativity in the history of English lexicography in the 15th, 20th centuries. The subject of the study is the features of normativity in the history of English lexicography in the 15th, 20th centuries. Aim of the research. In terms of lexicography, the problem of normativity is extremely complex and multifaceted. It inevitably involves making decisions on a number of issues, the most important of which are the objectivity of the existence of the norm, adequate reflection in the dictionary of linguistic reality, language changes, the role of lexicographers in registering the facts of the language. The tasks of the research is to get acquainted with the history of the development of English lexicography, determine the main stages in the formation of English national lexicography, conduct a lexicographic analysis of English dictionaries of various types, to determine the traditional methods of registration, to develop a chronological index of English historical dictionaries from 15th to 20th centuries. Scientific quality of this work is on the basis of a logically consistent combination of linguistic criteria, a fairly clear and objective periodization of the history of the origin, formation, and development history of lexicography. As a new scientific pattern in the English language, its theoretical and applied aspects is outlined. On the basis of the proposed periodization of the history of English lexicography, all the most significant thoughts, views, ideas, and approaches are registered in the historiography of linguistics in the form of simplified theory of general and special lexicography are covered and taken into account. The main point of the defense is the theoretical and applied aspects. Three main periods are distinguished in the history of English lexicography. The initial period, the period of formation, and the modern period. Each of the three historical periods identified in the lexicographic continuum is subdivided into two stages that are specific to the English language in terms of their length content. In the history of English lexicography, the initial period covers the historical and temporal fragment from the middle of the 16th to the third quarter of the 19th centuries, includes two particular stages. The first stage is birth of lexicography as a practice of compiling dictionaries, and the second is the stage of its growth, the appearance of the first idea in the theory of lexicography and the increase in the number of dictionaries in the English language. the degree of knowledge of the problem, the study of the problem of normativity throughout the history of English lexicography gives grounds for putting forward the following hypothesis. The evolution of the explanatory dictionary of the national language from a prescriptive dictionary to a registering dictionary is a natural qualitative transition in the development of national lexicography. The materials used in the dissertation, the authoritative explanatory encyclopedic dictionary, a dictionary of the English language by Johnson, Oxford English Dictionary, an American English Dictionary by Webster, the New World of English Words by Phillips, a new dictionary of the English language by Richardson. The methodological basis of the research is the decrees of the government of the Republic of Uzbekistan, decrees of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, fundamental research of linguistic phenomena in the field of lexicography. These are works of Malachowski, Berezin, Arnold, et al. The methods determine the goals and objectives of the work are complex and are in accordance with the general methodological premise of the work. The study uses descriptive and comparative methods. When collecting materials, the method of partial sampling was used. The following types of research work are carried out in the dissertation: analysis of literature on general and particular issues of lexicography, the theoretical significance of the research. The basis of the theoretical concept developed in the work was the hypothesis of the inevitability of a qualitative transition of any national lexicography from a prescriptive dictionary to a registering dictionary as a truly scientific and objectively compiled edition. The practical value of the research lies in the possibility of using its materials and conclusions in the following areas: in fundamental theoretical courses, in general mathematics,
Main part for the conclusion. Starting.
Самый приятный
Chapter написано. Если chapter аудио.
From the analysis carried out, the following conclusions can be drawn. Johnson not only fully embraced the purist ideas of his age and the prescriptive principles of previous lexicographers, but greatly supplemented and developed them. First of all, he fundamentally abandoned the idea of comprehensive dictionary and largely limited the number of words allowed in the dictionary. He did not include half of the group of non-standard vocabulary that we analyzed, which also speaks of his position as a purist and censor of the language and not a register and historian. So the Oxford Dictionary was the result of significant work of a large team that worked for 70 years from the very beginning of the work in accordance with the idea of Trench. DOS was conceived as a dictionary objectively and adequately reflecting the linguistic reality. The thesis about the registering dictionary led the compiler to the principle of complete and comprehensive coverage of the vocabulary, as well as to the principle of the obligatory illustration of each meaning of the word with quotations. The study of the problem of normativity throughout the history of English lexicography gives grounds for putting forward the following hypothesis: the evolution of the explanatory dictionary of the national language from the dictionary of prescriptive type to the dictionary of registering type is a natural qualitative transition in the development of national lexicography, reflecting in particular the the desire of lexicographers to more scientific and objective consideration of language as a social phenomenon.
The object of your investigation.
The object of investigation is the problem of normativity in the history of explanatory English dictionaries in the 15th and 20th centuries.
How do you understand the term normativeness, normativity more? Can you give a definition? Your topic is normativity, yes? How do you understand it?
Müthiş.
The topic is normativity. You have investigated which dictionary is normal to know. Yes.
International ilişkiler.
Chapter 1 is devoted to this concept, normativity. Normativeness. Attitude of scholars about the term normativeness.
It is the center of problem of English difficulty. It is the center of
Yes.
very important.
Each scientist who is writing. The topic is very actual, important. Every scientist should know this one. You try to say. Next, my questions then. I think chapter 3 is much more interesting, yes? Requisites for creating big Oxford dictionary. Can you tell me about this process? What kind of dictionary, who was founder, author, compilers?
The Oxford English Dictionary was the result of a significant work of a large team that worked for 70 years. From the very beginning of the work, in accordance with the idea of French, Big Oxford Dictionary was considered as a dictionary objectively and adequately reflecting the linguistic reality.
Thank you, it's clear. Counsel?
What methods do you have used in your research?
Descriptive and comparative methods.
What is descriptive process? How does it happen?
Описательный метод и сравнительный. And also a method of partial sampling was used.
The reviewers of this qualification say this seek valuable philological science, associate professor of English language and literature department of Harvard State University.
So, Malika devoted to the problem, the theme of your dissertation is the problem of normativity and explanatory English dictionaries. So, in the first chapter, she tried on material of the most significant dictionaries of 15th and 18th century to show that was attitude to English lexicographers or to the problem normativity. Second chapter devoted to Johnson's dictionary, which was nothing more than a descriptive dictionary, etc., etc. The third chapter deals with the Greek Oxford Dictionary. And it has, in conclusion, she gives the results of the lexicographical study of English dictionaries, and she summarized it. In solving and analyzing the subject, the many original linguistic sources use many original linguistic dictionaries, literary written records corresponding to a certain development period of the English language, taking into consideration the development in dictionary component. And I think that this work can be highly estimated.
Thank you. The next undergraduate student was advised by Murza Saidovich with scientific work, имплицитное обозначение цветов в современном английском языке. Scientific advisor Abdullah Mahsoud, candidate of philological science, Nukus branch, Agricultural State Institute.
Among you teachers, I am Azarbayan by Murza, and my today's theme is implicit representation of colors in modern English language. All my work consists of introduction and chapter 1 review of the theoretical premises on the study of problem, chapter 2 cognitive vocabulary as a way of reflection, implicit color representation, chapter 3 implicit color representation text of art literature, and conclusion, and the last one bibliography. Interesting point of this my work, one of the main characteristics of speech activity is the economy of language, means related to the communicative pragmatic use of language to the general problem. The content of the text and its presentation. The color system of different languages can differ significantly from each other, and which is explained first of all by the fact that color language reflects the color traditions of particular ethnic group, which is formed in different historical his background and their lifestyle. The object of my research is a noun of modern English language, which is associated with certain aspects of color. And the subject of research is the mechanism of influence certain nouns or readers and listeners term of reproducing or using colors in a literary text. And the aim of my research is to study and describe the mechanism for implementing the representation of literary text through nouns. And the scientific nobility of the same lies out the fact that first the attempt is made to isolate using associative analysis and description according to the ideographic principle, a group of nouns that are established with color and implicit meaning. And one frame approach is used to clarify the mechanism of implicit expression of color in a literary text. And thus put forward the work as a you see to study the system of associative relations between color adjectives and nouns that developed in the minds of native English speakers, and second one to classify English nouns according to the ideographic principle. Third one to consider the frame structure of lexical units of the class of nouns in the English language within literary text. And the last one to find out how the color component of the frame structure of noun is presented in literary text. Well, the hypothesis also work in the English language system. There are nouns can set the colors in the text without expressing explicitly. The color component of the hierarchically ordered structure of the noun frame affects the implicit color scheme of the denotation of the nouns included in it. And with a methodological basis of 10 adjectives of the English language, the 10 main adjectives in the English language are red, blue, green, yellow, brown, black, white, and gray. And 247 English nouns obtained as a result of academic English as a reactions words to the indicated 10 main colors of English language. And the text of fiction in English from which 12 fragments were selected and looked through over 5,300 words from it.
First chapter.
First chapter, a review of the theoretical premises of the study problem. The idea of color is present in the world of images, words of the child, space of color designation, in the language of Serioza Byron and Nikita with the help of following vocabulary. For example, when you use these colors in the when you see these colors in the mentioned above. Adjectives are adjective formation from the color and color group. The color group bright red. And express the semantics of color with nouns in the language worthy of serious paragraphs. There are simple and complex nouns with the meaning of color. For example, in his work, there is a word whiteness, which means the pure white man. And greenery is a word combination of green and plant. And redness is a man whose skin is red. And green fish is a combination of word green and berry. Object and directly perceptual characteristics of the object reality. In this case, when we clarify adjectives are used in the meaning, they indicate the maximum presence of a feature. For example, black suit, black coat, white teeth, white chalk, green leaves. As you know, we all know our teeth are white, but when we use the word white teeth, they expressing its meaning. And color attributes are part of metaphorical and metonymic transfers that are used to describe various phenomena or abstract concepts. And metaphor, the name is transferred from one object to another on the basis of similarity, its shape and color. And metonymy transfer is carried out on the basis of continuity in which objects are located among themselves. For example, gold girl, golden boys, silver cave. And consider to the secondary meaning of adjectives white, black, red, gray, green are found in noble possessed by Antonio Susan by And in his work, we see white, red, and the word black, but they are not representing just the color. They representing in this sentence. They come with sometimes the colors are known. Sometimes they are complex adjective. For example, the word white. White face means uh, the man who is very nervous, or the man who is feeling unconscious, and his pure wife. His pure white wife means his wife is a pure white man, and in other words, we can say she is European woman. And white lie means the lie is not very serious, and the color black in his work. In his work, there is a word black trees. Black trees is when the outside very dark. And black warner, he's a man from Africa. Uh, Black day means unpeaceful and very tiring day. He explained the word like this in his word. And black solitude means hopeless. And black magic, is a magic of protagonist um, characters in his novel. And the word red means see George red forehead, wrinkled and so means his face goes red. And a red-skinned Indian woman named Sherry, he explained red skin. And crimson means red sky. And the last one, a big red dog with red eyes. Red eyes means angry. And we, in our Kanaku language, there is a word who's a humble man. It's a equivalent of this word, red eyes. Research also cognitive corrections are interested in the issues of adaptability of color symbols, which were ethnically and mentally. The main categories in cognitive research are the context of the language, picture of words, and prototype color. For example, in European writers, for example, Versika, in his work, wrote he she while using yellow color, she meant about sun. But in our scientist Gujarat Devaya, in her work, she while using yellow color, not only she explaining about sun, also autumn. Yellow leaves lying on the ground, she expresses the color with yellow. The colorative lexical under the consideration to in a related coordinated process aimed at one semantic result to take place. The first one, revising the word as a result of its correlation with a new concept for him, semantic process of defining a certain concept using a secondary citation, and word revision as a result of interaction of the lexical meaning of compound words is a combinational semantic process. And I know why I'm using the colors. They represent some meaning with colors. For example, Taparkov, while he was painting his masterpieces, he points out that the color yellow means politeness. As you pointed out, the color, the black color means the sadness in his words, and the green color means they use the word, the feelings, the dream of use. And the red color means the breaking heart, or how to say, about a love which is ended with article. Is expressed as a symbol of purity, sanctity, and light. And as an opposite of white color, we consider black. And in most Turkish and Turkish countries, these cultural concepts are this concept exists, and while they are using, for example, in their novels and in their works, while using, explaining about the character, about the good character, they especially use white color, while using bad character or negative character in their novel or work, they especially use black color. Language and character literature, the blue color especially express the sky. There is a combination of colors, its positive and negative meaning in English and Karapak language. For example, white color in English language, white color has both negative and positive meaning, but on the other hand, in Karapak language, white color has also its only positive meaning. But in English language, black color has its only negative meaning, but in Karapak language, it has both positive and negative meaning. And blue color in English language has only positive meaning. Karapak language, blue color, as I mentioned above, has both positive and negative meaning. And the yellow, the red colors in both English and Karapak language has its both positive and negative meanings. And the green in English language has both positive and negative. In Karapak language, only has its positive meaning. For example, in white color, especially represents these words, following words: clarity, purity, beauty, and in the negative meaning, disease, death, such kind of fear or words. And black. As I mentioned above, it has only negative meaning in the English language: fear, darkness, there's magic, and black magic, as I said. And in English, in Karapak language, we have negative and positive meaning. And negative meaning, we use such the words about death and magic. In Karapak language, the color black especially represents the word gray or expresses something. And the other red, anger, fire, love, birth, death. And the blue, beauty, status, and it's associated with kings and royalty.
Conclusion.
The analysis is mainly carried out by means of two approaches: analysis of cultural values within the framework of mythological concept, and analysis of the units that realize the mythological concept in the phenomenological landscape of the world based on the cognitive discursive approach. In the analysis of meaning expressed by Freeman's, special attention was paid to their ethnoculture and their specific lifestyle.
That's all.
Yes.
Questions? So, what's your other? What's your
Относительно обозначения цветов в современном английском языке. Includes the representation of colors in modern including representation of colors
Representation обозначение класса. Обозначение класса. Репрезентация уже концептуальное понятие. Дальше. Implicit representation in the collections. How do you
it's not abstract or the actual meaning. It's a somehow the Osman's implicit representation. It's the other meaning. Osman.
Misallar veriyor insanlar. Misallar veriyor yeter yapıyorsunuz. Şimdi yeni budur. Bu böyle kara başı negatif nesillerini anlatıyor. Söylüyorsun.
Negatif manası İngilizce'de negatif de harap bakımında pozitif negatif.
Bakımın negatif nesillerini anlatıyor. Aslında kara bakımında bir şey yok.
Misalda yok.
Приложение контекста mühendisliğinde şahsının değil, asarlı mühendisliği. Asarlı olayda öyle misin?
Symbols of colors. Differentiated into how many?
For example, you can differentiate with warm colors are white, yellow, and red, and cold colors are used only use blue, black, and kind of very
What's the implicit meaning?
Şimdi tutuyor sarayın diye. Tutuyor sarayın diye. Müşteriler oynadı. Şimdi tutuyor sarayın.
Grass basically used and we say yellow leaves, it means autumn. Because of autumn, the leaves are yellow.
Amerikan sisteminde onlara bakım
Fall.
olmadı. Hiç tane sanmadı. Böyle klasik o folga. Nasıl? Evet. Ben sizin üzerinizden baktığımda soruyorum.
The reviewers of this qualification thesis on Bedvedikouza, Doctor of Philosophy on Pedagogical Science, associate professor of English Linguistics, Department of Karapakh State University. Next review, the Jiva Aya, candidate of Pedagogical Science, head of Department of English Language and Literature, Nuku State Pedagogical Institute. Both reviewers have given recommendation to defense. The next undergraduate student is Kaliva Ajan Sabitoza. The scientific work, the concept of hospitality and its national and cultural specificity. Scientific advisor, candidate of pedagogical science, head of Department of English Language and Literature, Karapakh State University, Utesheva Zirnia Metulaevna.
Good morning, dear teachers. I am Ayjan Kaliva. My dissertation topic is the concept of hospitality and its national cultural specificity. My research work consists of an introduction, 3 chapters, and then a list of literature. First, I would like to tell about introduction. This dissertation research is devoted to the comparative analysis of the concept of hospitality in the Karapakh, Russian and the English languages. The beginning of the 21st century is characterized in linguistics by significant changes and new directions in language learning at various levels. One of them is linguistic research is inextricably linked with the points. One of them is ethnolinguistics. Ethnolinguistics studies language as a cultural resource and seeks to correlate language and culture. Then next one is linguoculturology, is the branch of ethnolinguistics and studies communication. The research is due to the prominence of the problems of cognitive semantics world. The concept of hospitality is studied for all cultures, which means it gives an idea of cultural picture of the world. The object of the research work is Karapakh and English original artistic text. The subject of research the Karapakh and the English languages. The aim and the purpose of all pictures. The last one is to explicate the conceptual space hospitality, the structure of the identified cognitive models. And the quality of the research paper is explained as by the mate is to comprehend the national concept of hospitality. The survey of this work in the work itself, Potina and the Edward C. Pierre and the illustrated dictionaries as well as dictionaries of chapter 1 to study the concept of hospitality, notated significant and the connotative differences in the Karapakh, Russian and English languages were clarified. Yes. Hospitality is located along with the process associated with the meeting of guests and rituals of hospitality. For example, a meal is a touristic for the guests. And then konachacha, traditional meal prepared only for the guests. And second meal, konachacha, traditional gifts only for the guests, like item of clothing or outer garment, which no analog in Russian and the English languages. And then, despite the difference in the use of lexical means, stylistic techniques in the languages, there is a commonality in the expressional attitude towards uninvited guests. For example, an uninvited guest does not choose a place to sit. The uninvited guest does not claim the place of honor. In Russian, незваный гость хуже татарина. The concept of hospitality in Karakalpak, Russian and English were realized in simple words. For example, "Открыт", "радушие", "cordiality", "kindness". In phrases, meet the guest with open hearts. To meet the guest with open heart, and then the next point about is since the concept of hospitality is dynamically developing phenomenon, it is possible to describe the concept of hospitality as the script reception of the guest with stages meeting guests, treats, and the entertainment. In the languages studied, the concept of hospitality is expressed to varying degrees. For example, in Russian, bread and salt feast to the whole world. And in Karakalpak languages, konak kılsa savitrin tuvalu, konak hadisa, konak şair. The reception of guests in English mentality is associated with the music, a conversation about the weather, and one is the analysis of. Next one is the analysis features of the concept of hospitality relevant to the Karakalpak, English and Russian picture of the world to varying degrees. One of them is generous treats. This sets the table. It is started from the place where honorable in the form of a bowl of table. The last third one is the linguistic picture of the world. The concept of hospitality within each language and languages we found some, but these differences. The philosophy and the logic.
Concept communicative problem. Presentation skills, frames, sceneries. Yes, it's bu konsepti primitif kurallarda
Physiological units.
yıl konsept, misal senin hospitality mi?
Yes.
Increasing. Çünkü o konsept. Yine son iki şeylerde o kanday böyle şey kullanılıyor. Space of nelerinize
Spheres of the concept of the spheres of hospitality.
o space of concepts değil. Yalnızca space of cognition. Her mesela.
So concept is
Bu how do we understand the space for cognition in according to concept hospitality?
I understood that hospitality, concept of hospitality, has some implementation. We discussed the hospitality in various aspects, for example, in physiological units, in proverbs, especially in some biological linguistic picture.
Bu language unitsleri olarak, language unitsleri insan olsun.
Proverbs and sayings, irony words we use to describe the concept of hospitality.
Сознание своего.
Consciousness.
Сознание. Или Anlaşılmada Mars, Tema, konakta, ya, hayırlı. Niş,
This tradition always belongs to Karabakas.
hayırlı sevdiğimi. Bir kardeşim. Yaşım salak kimdir mi? Yaşım salak Space of cognition concepts, means of concepts, tuned. Ortam bırakalım mı?
National and cultural specifics. Why you have taken both of them?
To describe about to the cultures.
They of logical science. Камалова Густава Василь, Чешева Зерня Миколаевна.
Good morning, dear commission members and teachers. Let me introduce myself. I'm Kamal Mokuzagan. Now I'm going to present our different features of internet communication. The structure of the work consists of introductions, three chapters, conclusions, and a bibliography. The actuality of the work, the development of information technologies gave us the new ways, new ideas were reflected in the creation of a global computer network. The main the main language of communication was originally English. There is an increased number of users electronic communication for whom English is not their native language. According to People Atlas, they make up two-thirds of the entire internet audience. In the studies of electronic communication, the possibilities around the cultural approach and not properly evaluated. The comprehensive study of the electronic communication makes it especially urgent to study not only the structural and the semantic features of internet communication, but also the psycholinguistic characteristics that affect its effectiveness. The object of the study is electronic communication, which is understood as a variable interaction in the global computer network internet. The subject of the study is the last forward communication strategy level. In English analysis, so analyzing interaction of speech and social cultural mechanisms in the space of internet communication. Task of the master qualification paper to analyze modern approaches to the concept of electronic communication in foreign linguistics, to identify the nation-specific characteristics of the vocabulary of electronic communication, to establish nation-specific features of the syntax and of internet communication based on the structure of corporate websites, to identify the national and cultural specifics of electronic communication in the implementation of communication strategy based on the material of the scientific knowledge of the research is as follows. First, a fundamental new legal explorer sphere of communication is being considered, the formation of which is due to the development of information technologies. Second, a comprehensive approach to the study of electronic communications at various levels of consideration is proposed. The third one, the question of communicative strategies internet communication is investigated for the first time. Claimants came for the first time in the linguistic literature, received detailed consideration as usage of electronic communication. Methodological bending of the issue. The present the development of communication system in human society identifies two main periods. At the beginning of human history, in the pre-verbal period, communication between people was carried using simple sounds, simple expressions, and gestures. Second, during the next stage, oral communication takes the domination position. So with the invention of writing and printing, apparently enters a long period of domination of writing culture. Further, over the past 100 years, another communicative revolution has taken people, which has forced humanity to turn again to non-verbal sign systems. So I'm talking about the distribution of radio, television, as well as computer and computer networks. Indeed, the computer brings into communication a significant number of fundamental new non-verbal means of transmitting media, pictograms, and manipulations with visual objects. But in general, the position of the word in computer-mediated communication remains very strong. A new stage of development was associated with the invasion of the scientific network of commercial companies, the emergence of dot-coms, the spread of ideas of entrepreneurship, and the material benefits in the network. Communication between network users is carried out by means of natural language, which receives a number of additional functions from the internet. Language proficiency acquires an existential meaning for the internet user. Not only thoughts, but all the actions of participants of communication find their expression through the means of language. The internet as a new communicative space contributes to the fact that native speakers often think about the language means. Language is a means of creative self-resolution for the authors of non-network literary works. One of the most important psychological features of internet communication is its anonymous nature. As you know, internet users do not have a reliable source for obtaining information about their interlocutors. Each of participants in electronic communication has the opportunity to provide any information about themselves. The presentation of false information about oneself is quite common, and the right of a participant to anonymity belongs to basic norms of high relevant psychology In the choice of means of expression, the use of elements of various genres, the ability of means of conveying emotions, the third one, the high importance of text aimed at self-presentation. The first one, the adaptation of norms of speech behavior. Linguoculturology is a complex field of scientific knowledge about the relationship and the mutual influence of language and culture. A detailed analysis of the basic concept of linguoculturology, the concept and the linguistic personality is contained in a number of works. And linguistic personalities is understood as a national cultural prototype of the speaker, which is component on the basis of ideological attitudes, moral priorities, behavioral reactions. Qualitative analysis of electronic communication aimed at identifying the linguistic and cultural features of this phenomenon seems to suggest two main approaches. The first example is based on classification of individual genres of internet communication and the in-depth examination of one of them. The second possible way is based to identify significant levels of consideration of electronic communication. Computer nowadays jargons in internet communication is very famous. Nowadays computer jargon has become an integral part of electronic communication. Organisms have significantly expanded the scope of their functioning, moving from the conversation of specialists to the everyday speech of numerous users of personal computers and the internet. For example, the abbreviation XR was used instead of Y. Also, LOL. It means a lot of laughter. NP, no problem. NMB, never mind. CDR, sweet dreams. ACL, as soon as possible. Slang service was communication in the framework of informal communication and written communication on the internet. Based on the above, we can summarize the following. English language computer slang has developed on a monolingual basis as a social variant of the language. Second, computer slang in Russian is the result of the interaction of the language system. Various established value concept fixed in the language. The internet has helped to activate the dialogue between the author and the reader. The radical prediction of the author's disappearance were not destined to be justified, but the distance between the author and the reader was significantly reduced. It seems that in the framework of electronic communication, an entrance from the position of digital communication, which practically doesn't imply as response, imitates new events which is focused on dialogue. An important characteristic of the behavior of a linguistic personality is the communicative strategies implemented by it in process of communication. The growing interest in communication strategies is largely associated with the leading role of mass media in modern society. The further study of linguistic and cultural features of mutual influences of language is electronic communication is of critical importance. Content filtering.
Questions, please. Yılmaz'dan sormuş. What do you mean in your research? What do you mean in your research by linguistically relevant features?
The language that used in electronic communication. Language.
You speak natural language or computer language?
In computer and system, English. Without the both of them. Much more computer. Yeah, computer, internet. Slang is the word that I use it in electronic communication to save the time and slang also computer jargons. Like for example, to the rule R and A. It means L later. Sentences. Is
Science engineer the shared of this Department of Health State University. Next review pedagogical candidate of pedagogical science with Inglis State University, Жолобек Романяш.
and I'm going to defend my master's thesis. Our topic is about the use of category assessment in English and Arabic languages. Why we choose this topic? Because nowadays researching programs for foreign languages in comparison with native language, comparing the different similarities to different languages in comparison linguistics. Comparison linguistics, therefore, identifying distinctive features of the category of assessment and touch problem in Karapa comparative linguistics. The category of assessment is a complex linguistic phenomenon studied in linguistics, especially in the comparative way. Only several aspects of this problem have been investigated in the linguistic literature in English and the Karapa languages. Possessive affixes of nouns are obvious examples. The reviews related to the problem expressing the sense of possessiveness in the Arabic language have been explained in the works of Pascal, Khatarbayev, Viktorin, and Satulaiva. In the English language, Tolkina, Barantsova, Ivanova, Bakhuzarov, Shtelling, and Halgovich. This work is devoted to research determining the use of category of possessiveness in different ways in English and Arabic languages. This is the first step in determining the use of category of possessiveness in the language belonging to various systems. This analysis of category of possessiveness is related to study the structural meaning of the languages, being compared possessiveness happening in the object of the study and the respect of many science and linguistics. The term possessiveness is derived from the Latin word possessive, which means ownership, possessiveness. Possessiveness is one of the particles of universal concept of the language. The main sense of which is to determine the name of object in relation to another person's object. In terms of form and context, possessiveness is connected with categories such as determination, indicative, attributes, locative, and semantically and relatively. The category of possessiveness in interlanguage is an interlanguage category. For it can be studied in both language systems being compared with namely English, Kazakh, Uzbek, and Russian. Why this category is called interlanguage? It's because it relies on the study of linguistic hierarchy of possessiveness in morphological, grammatical, and lexical aspects. In the English, in the Kazakh, it represents by morphological and syntactical methods.
The intercultural nature of assessment is proved by its collocation with many lexical grammatical associations of words with characteristics phenomena of nouns, the verb, pronouns, and adjectives. For example, the concept of possessive can be expressed in several ways with the help of words such as have, belong, own, towards, as well as nouns, owner, and the possession. For example, they have a large garden. To whom does this land belong? He owns two motor cars. The concept of possessiveness is also expressed by possessive pronouns mine, ours, his, yours. It's yours, theirs. For example, this cat is my notebook. The notebook is mine. The concept of possessive can also be expressed by prepositional phrases with the preposition of at the end of the page. As the foot of mountain, sometimes it's possible to use as attributive noun instead of this phrase. The legs of the table, the table like the city of New York and in New York City. Possessive pronouns, possessive nouns, and prepositional nouns with the help of indicate the concept of possessive with several other meanings. For example, it's expressed by apostrophe s and of. Noun, apostrophe noun. This construction is expressed in Arabic in three ways. Each expression possesses several signs and indicators can be explained vividly. Morphological expression possesses includes forms of nouns, verbs, pronouns, and etc. For instance, the linguist Valadovich did research on expressing possessiveness in modern Slavic languages by the work of morphological methods. How do morphological expressions of possessiveness. Now, by morphological, it means by nouns, verbs, and pronouns. My books, his book, your book, these books. My book in the first person singular, meaning kitabım. My books in the first person plural, meaning kitaplarım. A note of science Tversky mentioned that at one time certain languages had different forms of nouns denoting possessive. For example, have, belong, own. The possessive forms of words in their turn can be connected with particular means of concept, the category of possessiveness. One can see from the example above a particular affix is added to the root of the word in the first case and express the first person singular. In the end case, the affix la, which is plural, is added and denotes that the object belongs to the one person, and the affix la is the form there is similar to as analogs only the noun and the second person plural. Is expressed by suffix in lexical aspect. It's expressed by expressions and lexical aspect is given with the help of words expressing possessiveness. While citing the possessive category, we consider that the category case is also important. The reason for this is that one of the main functions of possessive case is express possession. In English, the case category has decided for less than was in other languages. The view is put by the number of cases. There are 6 cases in characterized languages, while English has only 2 cases. Linguists state that the reason why there are 2 cases in English because the English language has by far the most preposition used instead of case category. Some function of case is one of the main cases in English. The concept was used in the ancient written source and today is still being used in developed. Possessive case is formed by adding results. Just add the simple. In English, construction can be added to the root of simple nouns, abbreviations, as well as compound nouns. It's necessary to mention that the characterized language suffix and possessive case are sometimes added to the noun and sometimes not. This phenomenon is called this is a constitute are affected to express grammatical what the is to the north, it means that the person is from London. In English, persons require have own property in Karalpa, the meaning of possession can be used with this word. There are lexical compounds made of lexical ownership, retail. Retail bulu. Category. What cases are newspaper in 24 devoted there is seven cases. By the opinion. It is based on an opinion. Since our work is related to the practical process, we will talk not about the case in other language, but about the passive case. The passive case in the modern Arabic language is formed by axis nun. In most languages, the word of the main notion of possession so that most of the possessive is using all contraction, using as if of.
What are the main differences?
Expressing this case in Arabic language, this is expressed in mostly morphology. For example,
Forma amado belirtmesine yapılan
Não sei também. Mas na época só assim. É chinesa para a dimensão.
Işıksızda bunları
İngiliz'den de
sırtın çeviri yap çıkarlarda koysan ya gramatikal kategori hakkında düşünüp bu da öyle şey. Kısmen gramatikal kategori ama değil. Bunun gibi tartım kategorisinin hakkında düşünüp anlamak. Tartım aziz bütün kategoriyalı statüsü gösterip koysa. Peki, fikir verin. Başka sorular var mı? Yok öyle. Yok.
the viewers of the qualification thesis of this qualification thesis are Muhammed Gabulayan, candidate of philological science, associate professor of English language and literature at Ohio State University. Kudrbaeva Bunzira Kurbanbaevna, associate professor of distance learning, Department of Nuclear State Pedagogical Institute. Both reviewers have given recommendation to defense. That's all for today.